We measure time in cycles of the sun's movements, all the while assuming that it's a fundamental construct of reality, a mathematical, immutable law. We never stop to think that these measurements are our own creations. Hello, and welcome to the Ancient Wisdom Modern Mind podcast. And today, I want to share with you a slightly different perspective on our understanding of time and consciousness, an understanding of what I call the time syntax. Syntax is thought of as the arrangement of words and phrases to create well-formed sentences in a language. But our concepts of time is also an arrangement of cycles and phrases, and time and consciousness also has its own syntax. We measure time in cycles of the sun's movements, hours, minutes, seconds, and so on. Also, time is distance and light speed, all the while assuming that it's a fundamental construct of reality, a mathematical, immutable law. We never stop to think that these measurements are our own creations, and that if we so choose, we could, for example, change how we calculated light speed, and nothing would change. The universe would still tick by, measured and calculated by humans. What we never imagined was that time is a human construct, a manifestation of a human cultural syntax. For example, it was not the unit of time or the rotations of the sun that created time, but humans marking their festivals, birthdays, anniversaries, and so on, that created not only the culture, but the sense of time's duration. Each human culture sensed and measured time differently, not because of mathematics or the speed of light, but because the marking of their rituals, and for this reason alone, time is in truth a manifestation of culture and its syntax. The syntax embeds the rituals into the language, and the language embeds time into the culture. For example, an American, because of their agreed rituals such as Christmas, Easter, sports grand finales, wedding anniversaries, birthdays, and rules that say work starts at 7 a.m. or 9 a.m., and meals are eaten at such a time, and church is on Sundays. The American can never be anything other than what his culture dictates. For example, the American, if he moved to India, would still be an American living in India. Or if he moved to the Amazon jungle, he would still be an American living in the jungle. Just as the native in the Amazon jungle could never become an American unless he also changes his rituals and rules. India's sense of time is different to an American sense of time, and the native in the Amazon jungle's sense of time is different to India's sense of time, and each is frustrated by what they see as irrational responses to their sense of time. Time is the human measure of existence. It is what keeps us uniquely human and bound to this small point within awareness. Break these agreed rules, and time slips away. We may say, "Where did the time go?" or "Wow, time really flew." In these moments, time seems to change. But really, we simply broke a cultural rule. We may have skipped lunch, or were so focused on our activity that the cultural rules were momentarily forgotten, and so time became irrelevant. Children are most conscious of time and often complain about its length. But that is because, unlike adults who can change the rules to some degree, a child is forced to obey the strict rules of time, and so are very aware of every minute. Now this can bend the mind a little, since we cannot contemplate outside of time. It is fundamental to our place in the universe. And let's face it, it's easier to have scientific rules. Rules make us feel safe. rules really do rule, if you will pardon the pun. So how do we wrap our heads around this thinking? How can we contemplate this new awareness and turn something we thought was rigid, but in actuality is flexible to our advantage? First, let's try and understand time simply through perception. Imagine you are in a car and you look in the rearview mirror and see another vehicle behind you. The mirror has enabled you to perceive an event in the past. Since your light particles are ahead of the vehicle behind you, you are technically a microsecond in the future of this perception. Now here's the twist. You cannot see into the future because if you could, then everything would be predetermined. So what does this mean? Consider what happened with the rearview mirror. The mirror seems to give the impression that you can see into the past because you assumed you were looking forward into the future. So the first realization is that we are all traveling backwards, or to be more precise, we are all viewing the past, the very microsecond that it happens. We are actually living in the past. This realization also explains the experience of the present moment, the mystical present moment, that deep meditator's experience. The meditator moves into the smallest of gaps, the gap between perceiving backwards and forwards in time. The how of this present moment is to simply stop thinking, to stop participating in the action of calculating time. Now this is nothing new. Mystics have been raving about this for thousands of years, and there is nothing new I can add to the story. Except this one thought. If we can become aware of the present moment, what would happen if we became aware of the light particles ahead of us? So, if you like this supposition on the subjective experience of time and consciousness, I would like to also take a moment to remind you to subscribe to this channel or sign up to the newsletter if you would like to be notified when I release new content. So go ahead and click on the subscribe button, and if you would like to support my work, then you can download the podcast for a small supporter's remuneration. Links are in the description. And if what I talk about resonates with you, and you would like to take your spiritual journey deeper, learn about meditation, or go even deeper with your meditation journey, then I also offer books, meditation audios, and instructional podcasts that cover a variety of meditation and metaphysical topics available at www.jasoncain.net. And it would be my privilege to have you join me over at the Ancient Wisdom Modern Mind website. Here's to you and your fulfillment and growth into every tomorrow to come.